Hi, this is Amethyst Treleaven again, doing Psychic Ogham reading 799 for my client with the initials SL. Okay, SL, you asked me a number of questions, and of course this is a slightly modified reading for you, given that we've changed those questions based on what occurred for you last time. So you've asked me now what you need to do to move forward to create I guess greater potential in your life, whether you need to remain in your current job, your current occupation, or perhaps change as a means of further benefiting others, whether you need to do some additional study, and I guess how to support your family, and I'm hoping some health is going to come through with that last kind of question as well. So let's get into it and see what happens for you this time. We start your reading off here, and we'll kind of work our way around, and we'll spend most of our time here, but I just want to contextualize it a little bit for you, looking at these ones. We'll start with this reading here, with this Ogham stave here. This stave is Elder or Fian, and this is often, this is in the position, by the way, also of I guess theming the whole reading, and this is about seeking and giving advice. It's about seeking and providing support for others. So what comes through when I look at all of these as a whole is that for you, the giving of support to other people is central to who you are, and that comes up very strongly in here. But there's also a sense that sometimes that's a little bit unbalanced, that you tend to give an awful lot to other people without necessarily getting an awful lot back. But I'm going to pick up on that an awful lot more as we go through, because that's really very clearly coming through here about how your soul's purpose, for the want of a better phrase, is about providing service and support to other people. That has major implications for the next 12 months in terms of what you do to manifest that. These three staves over here are about the last 12 months or so, and we start off with Lewis or Rowan, and that's the kind of undercurrent for the last 12 months. And Lewis or Rowan is very much about, it's about self-protection. It's about caring for self, and I don't necessarily mean in terms of health, but I mean in terms of how you emotionally support yourself in how you care for other people. Now this is particularly, what I'm being told here is that this is particularly in relation to your family. It's about how you've needed to place, if you like, a protective barrier around all of your family as a means of protecting them, not just from health, but from the impacts of the health issues that they need to put up with every day. So it's about, this is talking very much about what are the practical things that you've had to do in order to create an environment where they feel safer, where they feel valued, where their illnesses don't overtake their entire life. And again, we're going to pick up on a little bit more of this as we go through. These two staves here, this big fat one here is Vine or Mewen, and this one over the top is Gorse or On. Now this is interesting because Mewen, Vine, is very much about harvesting what we sow. It's about results. It's about reaping what you've sown. It's about achievement, but it's very much linked to what it is that you created in the first place. So it's not about you will achieve per se. It's not about that at all. It's about you looking at the last 12 months and saying, well, what was my contribution to what is currently occurring, particularly within my family and within my job kind of workspace? What is it that I have done that has created the outcomes that I now experience? This is what this is all about. So it's not about blame per se. That's not what it's saying at all. It's saying that you are now beginning to recognize that you have a direct impact on your life's outcomes, and that you know very much that what you do brings the reward that you want. So it's about changes of attitudes, it's about putting into place practicalities that support that. Now, with that said, Gorse, excuse me, or Own sitting on top is about, this is about planning for the future and then actually putting that into place so that you get the outcomes. But Gorse says that's actually been very difficult, because the practicalities of your current situation are that on many occasions you just have to cope with what happens on the day, particularly in terms of health. And I keep getting the sense here in the last 12 months or so that there have been a great many plans that you've wanted to put into place, but practicalities have got in the way, and things have had to be stalled. So Mewin or Vine says here that the undercurrent for you, part of the undercurrent for you was very much in line with Lewis or Rowan, was very much about getting to grips with the actual foundation, particularly in terms of health. What's really causing the health issues for your family, and putting into place strategies to overcome that. And yet over the top of that, Gorse has been saying that's all very well and good, and that's fantastic, but today you just got to cope with the crap that's hitting the fan, so to speak. So for you, it's been a time, 12 months, where you know the things that you have to do, and for some of them, and for a great many of them, you put into place. But it's also been a time of, oh, flipping heck, I just have to deal with this today. This stave that sits in the middle I absolutely love, and I'm really pleased actually to see a number of very important staves in this little pile here, which is really good, and this has a relationship with these. Heather, or sits in the position here of what's happening in your life right now. Now, Heather is about love, it's about companionship, it's about partnership, it's about shared empathy, it's about doing things together with someone who you value very much and who values you. But it's also about learning to love who you are. It's about coming to terms with what you perceive as being your weaknesses, and also celebrating your successes. It's about knowing who you are. And I keep getting the sense very strongly through here that you're exploring that even further now. You're really looking deep within you as to what is your life's purpose, and how you manifest that practically. And again, we're going to pick up on this as we go through these. Now, these staves here are about the next 12 months or so, so let's spend a lot more time on these. Now, this is the stave that themes the next 12 months for you, and this is Aspen, or Idia. Now, this is actually about hesitation, it's about holding back, it's about not stepping forward into where you want to go. And I'm going to be quite honest here, as I have been with you through these conversations that we've had over emails in the last week or two, and say I'm quite unsure as to why that's sitting there at the moment. But I trust that the problems that we've had in doing this reading have got something to do with this stave here, and I'm just going to go with it at the moment and just see what comes up as we go through. Now, these staves here, these three here, are the ones that I'm getting so much information from. The one underneath, this one, just beautiful, is Quet or Apple. Now, Apple is very much about living a life which is whole, which is complete, which is purposeful. It's about living a life which feeds your soul, which makes your heart sing. So this is a stave we honour very much, because it's about purposeful future. Now it's sitting underneath this stave here, and this is you or Aho, and this is about changes that you create within. This is about differences that you make to the way you approach life. It's about further growth and development. Remember, we saw here this heather, which was about the exploration of self. So that's been developing for you for some time, but it's reaching an impetus, if you like. It's reaching a climax within the next year, where you really push yourself to find out an awful lot more about who you are and what your purpose in life, and that has massive implications in terms of practicalities for you in the next 12 months, which we'll talk about. This one underneath is willow or sail. Now, why I'm particularly pleased to see these three together is because this one under here, which is quir or apple, is a really important stave, because that talks about living a life that celebrates the core of who you are. So it's not just about filling the bank balance and you know, all that practical stuff. It's about living a life that actually makes you feel totally and utterly fulfilled. And then you've got willow or sail beside that, and willow or sail is very much, it's a magical stave. It's an Ogham few that talks about flexibility, that talks about femininity, that talks about magical future, in the sense that what it is that you do, again, is not about practicalities, but is about being complete, if you will. So when we put these together, and this is still an enigma, this one, so I'll pick up on that as it comes through. What we have here in relation to your questions is 12 months ahead of massive change for you, but it's not necessarily change that other people would see as being massive. So many people would determine change as being, I get a new job, I find a new place to live, I have a relationship change. That's not the sort of change that I'm talking about here. Here I talk about, and the 12 months ahead for you, these staves talk about a series of aha moments, you know, moments for you when you realise, oh, I get it now. This is a time when you begin to explore a little bit more about your own spirituality. It's a time when you really begin to look at what is my purpose in life. And that has spin-offs for the job that you currently do. So, in terms of practicalities, you asked me about the occupation, the job, if you like, that you're currently in, and should you change? Absolutely, you're going to change. Absolutely, you're going to change. The practical change doesn't occur necessarily in the next 12 months. In other words, you don't shift out of your current occupation and shift into a new occupation within the next 12 months. But within the next 12 months, you absolutely put into place the seeds that build the outcome that's going to happen within the next 3 years. So you will be returning to study, and it will be a total change of occupation. It's still very much service-based for you. It's very much about community. It's very much about giving. It's very much about supporting other people, and it has a degree of psychological, emotional support attached to it as well. So I'm not suggesting, for instance, that you're going to go back to university and learn to be a psychologist or a nurse or something necessarily like that, but it is about social support. It's about how you care for other people. So within the next 12 months you will begin that course of study. During the next 12 months as well, you'll also do a great deal of research around that new area of occupation that you want to go into as well. Now, you're not going to get as much support for what you want to do as you had hoped, particularly from your family, because there's going to be a degree of fear about that, particularly in terms of what that might mean for you financially. And that's what, and here it comes. And that's what this is talking about. Now it comes. Okay. I'm sorry, sometimes they don't come through logically, and it's quite confusing. For you, I keep seeing this balancing act now. This balancing act between, I really want to go and do this new form of service, community service, support for other people in my occupation, but I feel the pull of loyalty and the need to support my family emotionally, physically, practically, financially, and I see a struggle there. It's a real struggle for you. It's almost as though you have to have one or the other. And what we see particularly when we see this one here, is that you can have both. So over the next 12 months, it's really important that you care for who you are as well as caring for other people. So it's important that you sit down with your family and say, this is where I feel the holes are in my life, and so this is how I would like to fill that. I would like to have the opportunity for you to support me through that as I continue to support you through that. So it's a negotiation process, so that you don't have to feel that it's either me or other people. It can be a blend of both. I'm so pleased to have finally worked out what's going on here and what's been the blocker for this reading for you. Okay, so in terms of how you do that, one of your questions was, how do you do that? And what I'm going to encourage you to do is to get a pen, and I want you to get lots and lots of post-it notes. Lots and lots of post-it notes, even different coloured ones if you're a visual person. And I want you to get a big sheet of paper, and I want you to write down one thing on every one of these post-it notes that's important to you, that excites you, that motivates you, that you love doing. And it might be cooking. Rip that one off. It might be cuddling my pet dog. You know, that sounds kind of what's the word I'm looking for? Silly, but write it down anyway. It might be I'm motivated by the thought of supporting others. So you may end up with 20 of these post-it notes. You may end up with 300. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how many you end up with. And I want you to write one thing on each one of those. And then on your big sheet of paper, I want you to set up zones, if you like, on that. And this zone over here might be family. This zone over here might be health. This zone over here might be occupation, career. It's probably a better choice for you because it's now about career as opposed to just occupation. This might be financial. This might be social. This might be artistic or spiritual or whatever it is, and place each of the post-it notes that you've written one thing on in those different zones. And what you'll end up with is a bigger picture of the things that excite you, of the things that motivate you, of the things that bring you joy. And it's those things that you can then look at and begin to develop what is my new career option, okay? And from that, and this can take you days and days. It's probably going to take you several weeks, in fact. From that, you can begin to leverage off and say, okay, so I see that I really love doing X, Y, Z, and therefore that will be what my career choice is. So that kind of exercise, if you like, in and of itself helps your brain to compartmentalize, to organize what it sees about you. And remember, we're talking here very much about how you begin to live a life that is complete and full, and that helps your brain to see that and begin to organise, well, how do I utilise that for a more full and potential future. So I really encourage you to go ahead and do that. As a result of that, inside the next 3 years, there will be a change of job for you. There is also going to be a return to study, but you are not going to change the current occupation that you're in right now. There's going to be a time of duality where you do both of those at the same time for a wee while, and that's going to place a great deal of stress on you in terms of that loyalty factor that you're feeling about. Is there enough of me to cope with what I want to do as well as what I have to do to support my family? In terms of supporting your family, which was the other question that you asked me, one of the major things that I really encourage you to think about is that it's really important that you support you. Now, I know that's a pretty alien concept for you, because you tend to be somebody who focuses on other people. But in the next 12 months, it's really important that you see yourself as being equally as important as the other people that you support, including your family. So in terms of your own health, I want you to think about, please, having enough downtime, even if that means jumping in a nice warm bath with some candles and some essential oil, locking the door for half an hour and just having me time in the bath. That might mean going and sitting out in the grass and watching the ants for 10 minutes without being disturbed. It may mean that you go to a local beach and you just sit on the beach and watch the surf for an hour. It may be that you go down to the local coffee shop and you just sit there on your own with a lovely cappuccino or something or other. So it's really important that you have me time, because that me time for you in the next 12 months is where you have that almost meditation time, if you like, where you can focus on who you are, because remember, it's all about in the coming year you exploring who you are completely so that you can manifest that to the world. And that is the greatest gift that you can give to other people in the next year. That is the greatest way that you can be of support to your family. It's also really important for you in terms of this new occupation, this new career that you're going to go into, that you don't do it suddenly, that you don't just quit your current job and go into it. Because again, you often see life as black and white. I can either support this person or I can support this person. I can support other people or I can support myself. None of that anymore. It's much more about blending all of those together. You can support other people while you support yourself. And that means that you can study whilst for your new career choices, whilst you continue to taper off in your current job. It's very much a year for you where you begin to see that you can grow exponentially, much more than you have. You've tasted that. This is that year where it really pushes you. But it's really important that as you do that, you negotiate that with your family. That will be one of the biggest means of support that you can provide to them. Now, I also wanted to talk to you about this card here, and it's fascinating that Raven comes into this for you. Many people consider Raven to be a card of death. He's not a card of death at all. In fact, it's quite the reverse. Raven or Bran, he's about rebirth and he's about new life, which for you is this whole year ahead is about rebirthing a new expression of who you are. But it also means, Bran, the Raven, also means that in order to embrace that new life, you need to be prepared to let go of the old life. And remember, we talked about this stave here that I couldn't work out about for you. And this stave here, which was about giving and receiving advice, it's about sharing, it's about saying, okay, it's not the new life or the old life, it is the old life. I will gradually let that go as the new life filters in. So it's really important that you are prepared to let some other things go. Take a risk. The family will continue to grow And whilst there have been health issues that they have all had to deal with, they are growing up and they will cope with them. You don't have to be there 24 hours a day. Raven also says that once we accept and engage that, it often brings us even greater happiness, because remember, with the rebirth comes new opportunities, comes new ways of seeing the world. And once we allow that into our lives by letting go of the old, we often become even more at peace and even happier as well. Raven very much enables you to resolve some of those old conflicts. You know, here we were talking about what you wanted to do in the future, but the practicalities of the days was just saying, well, you know, I just have to cope with what's happening today, you know, that firefighting in effect. Raven kind of says, well, it doesn't need to be that way anymore. Let go. You don't have to be in control of everything all of the time. It's okay to not sweat the small stuff. So I hope that that's been of some benefit for you, SL, and I know that this was actually quite a struggle for me to come together for you, and sometimes that happens with readings. Now and again, I think there's only ever been 3 times when this has occurred for me where I just can't get it through, and even when I started this one, as you will notice, I just couldn't work out where that one was. But for me, it's very much about that black versus white for you. I can or I can't. I have to support this person or that person. I can't have a new career, a new occupation, and do this. Yes, you can. So it's about flexibility. Remember, we have Willow in here. It's about flexibility. It's about negotiation in the coming year. I hope that is helpful for you and will help you make some decisions moving forward.